And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of the Feel Good Show. And just indeed, it's about that time. And if I'm not mistaken, on the line, in the air, he's everywhere. He's here, both in the studio and virtually where he is. The modern conveniences of modern technology is indeed with us. So without further ado, making his presence known everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, it's T-Boz, bringing you words of wisdom and moments of meditation. Good morning, sir.
Good, faster than a speeding bullet. Look, up in the air, it's a bird. It's like we're going to go into the Superman show. What a great show that was with the late George Reeves. Good morning, Mr. Williams. I'm happy to be here. Good morning, everyone. There is our staff, George, by the door. We have a lot of people today because of our Memorial Day special. The title is Patriotism. We're going to explore that today. Got a lot going on, so we got to move along. George got here much earlier, as I put on Facebook. We have Elks Lodge 372 from Torrington. All those guys are here. Some guys from VFW. Actually, we have a scout troop in the back. You know, we can move those kids up front a little bit, George. There's room over here. We got them here, and then our regular group of people in areas, Big Dave with his wife Sylvia in the back, smiling ear to ear, and, of course, Stan. So a lot to cover, so let's get rolling very quickly. This will be the last shout-out for Relay for Life. I will not be in next week. I'll be away a little bit, so I won't have time to prepare for a Thursday show next week. So Relay for Life is May 30th. It is becoming a huge success. Lady Diana is the head of registration, and the names and teams are just piling in. So we thank all of you for that. Please come out to 99 Thompson Street in Avon. You don't have to stay forever. You don't have to run or walk. There will be food trucks there. You can come, hang out, talk, and participate in a great cause. The other shout-out is, I can't believe it, standing today, looking forward, 100 days to Diana and myself wedding. So we're down to the last 100 days, and she's still in, so let's hope that continues. But it is getting very exciting. I feel like I'm 20 years old. Let's go over to a man who served in the military, our good friend Stan the Coffee Man. And what do we have in the coffee pot today, Mr. Phillips? American breakfast blend. And it sounds red, white, and blue. And look at this beautiful cake, Jock. When you come over, you got to check this out. It's an actual American flag with the stars. Where did you get this? Lombardi's. Unbelievable. It's huge. It's for everybody. And it's red, white, and blue, just like a real American flag. And who is our sponsor today, Stan, for this beautiful refreshment? None other than the Elks Lodge. Thank you, guys. 372, they do a lot for the veterans. My friend Barbara informed me. And we're going to share a little bit Memorial Day, Veterans Day, the difference. But they are a patriotic group and do a lot of good work here in Torrington as well. So thank you, Elks Lodge 372. Bring him in, George. There's plenty of room here. And Stan, thank you for coming in extra early to get this cake in here. It took a while to get that set up. It actually is in three pieces: the stars and stripes, the red, and then the white. It actually came in three pieces. So fabulous. We're talking today about Memorial Day, and it's not the official start of summer. It's a much more important day than that. Memorial Day was actually instituted by General John Logan in 1868, May the 5th. He wanted to honor the deceased of the Civil War, and it has grown, obviously, to honor the deceased people who gave their lives in all our country's wars. And then it was moved to the last Monday in May, and ironically, I found this out because Mary Ann helped me with this in research. It wasn't until 1971 that it became a federal holiday. Imagine that. I was a freshman in high school. So just a little bit there, background. The difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Veterans Day is when you go up to your grandfather or your dad or your brother or maybe an older friend like I have, Bill Loader, and thank them for serving. Memorial Day is different because we honor the dead. We honor the men and women in our newer wars. Women do serve now. We honor the dead. We honor the people that gave their lives heroically so that we can have the life that we have here in this country. We're going to go through some of this. And so there's a big difference in Veterans Day and Memorial Day. So we are going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the value of patriotism, what it means to be patriotic. And we're going to start with a quote, and then I'm going to go back to a story. And I'm going to kind of zigzag this morning, boys and girls, because it's just going to be that kind of show as my emotion moves me. Our first quote is by Sergeant Major Bill Paxton, and he says this. You've all heard this one. May we never forget our fallen comrades. Freedom isn't free. Boom. It's not free, boys and girls. We're here. We're able to do what we want. There's been little protests down at Cole Park. Great. I'm happy to see that. Jock and I talked off air. What we don't really appreciate is people who say, well, I don't vote, they're all bums. Okay, that's indifference, all right? But when people care and they want to protest, or people want to write a letter, or they want to write a column in the newspaper, or they want to put on a program on the radio, that's great. Because that's what America is. It's not only the freedom to be able to go from one state to another without a passport, but it's the freedom to be American. And so freedom is not free. It came at a price. I mean, think about this. Everyone in this room would defend someone you love, right? Dave's nodding, all that, the Boy Scouts are nodding, right? You would all defend someone you love, right? Someone attacked someone you loved, you would defend them. But the average soldier is 19 years old in all the wars, 19 years old. When a soldier goes into battle, he's putting his life on the line for someone he doesn't know. You, me, Jacques, Dan, George, Alicia. They're going over there knowing that there's a good chance of dying for a stranger, for a cause, for a belief. You know, I thought about this morning. I was preparing the show. You all remember the Bob Hope shows when he would do the USO tours, right? And Margaret and all these starlets. And they would take the camera and they would pan the audience. And you see all the young guys. I mean, my generation, I watched the guys for the Vietnam War, right? And they're all waving and hooting and hollering when Aunt Margaret comes out. And they're laughing when Bob Hope is telling a joke. And we would watch these things, right, at Christmas time with our Zenith color TV, right? You know, the NBC Peacock would come on, and here'd come Bob Hope, right? But you know what occurred to me this morning? Probably 25% of those guys never came home. Probably that was the last time that their mothers or fathers saw them alive. Let that set in a little bit. Think about that. Bob Hope did a great job there serving our country. That's patriotism, right? Patriotism isn't always with a rifle, okay? But think about that. Those guys that were smiling and happy to be at a Christmas show, probably 25 or 30% of them never came home. Imagine that. You know, we look at this story from Bill Loader, who he drove a tank in Vietnam. And he told me there was one time there was 100 guys, and they pulled all their tanks around, and they were standing with their rifles and their fatigue in the pouring rain in the middle of a place they had no idea where they were, basically, okay, in Vietnam. And they were knee-deep in mud and sweat and blood and death, standing in a field, just wet to their bones. And a priest came in, and a couple of guys got some cinder blocks that they took from a vacant building, and they threw a piece of plywood over it. And they're all standing there. Bill said, literally knee-deep. The altar was in the mud, practically. And the priest puts a chalice, and he says a quick mass. And he's holding the Eucharist, and Bill said to me, we're all standing around, all of different faiths, he said. And we're all looking at the symbol of hope while we're standing in the middle of hell. And in that situation, Bill says, there are no atheists in a foxhole. And when the guys went up for communion, the priest didn't say, "Are you Catholic?" They took it. Then they went back to their tanks and finished their mission. That's what a soldier does, okay? That's what war really is, okay? If you look at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, all right, and those young men, like I said, 19, and those doors open on that ship, and you see the fear in their face, and they charge into the water. You know, we grew up with the John Wayne movies. That was romance. But you watch the opening scene of that film. I encourage everybody, just watch the opening. And those young men are running into the water, and you see body parts flying in the water and guys drowning, and they're running under the water, and they're trying to get to the shore because they're trying to get the enemy in the bogs. And you just literally see boys being decapitated, and arms and legs, and the water, instead of being blue, is now turning red with blood of our American young men fighting so that you and I could live in a country that's so free and so good that sometimes we forget that. And they're charging up that beach in Normandy. That's war. That's what Memorial Day is. And a lot of those guys, my father's generation, they were first-generation sons of immigrants. And these immigrant parents were sending their sons back to fight against the very countries that they came here from. My grandfather didn't call Italy my country. You know what was his country? United States of America. Italy was the old country. And he sent his sons over there to fight the very country he came from. Imagine that. Let that settle in. That's how you got your freedom, boys and girls. Not because you said the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a picture of my Uncle Funzy. He came home from leave in Binghamton. It's at my house. And he's standing there in his uniform, and his mother's holding his hand, and all my mother and all her brothers and sisters, there were 10 of them, the Cordiscos, all standing out in front of the house, right? This is first-generation Italian, my mother. The grandparents are born, raised in Italy. You know what flag is hanging on that house? Red, white, and blue, an American flag. It wasn't red, white, and green. My Uncle Funzy and my uncles on both sides of the family, they fought for the red, white, and blue. Yeah, they ate macaroni, they had meatballs, but they were American. They were American. And that's what patriotism is, and that's why we go back to our first quote, right? Freedom isn't free. We look down at John chapter 15, verse 13, and it says, "No greater love is this than when a man," and I'll put in a woman, "no greater love is this than when a man or a woman lays down their life for a friend." Or for us. And there's scripture, right? People say, "Oh, how does scripture relate to modern day living?" 2,000 years ago. And Jesus said in John 15, chapter 15, verse 13, "No greater love is this than when a man lays down his life for another." Right? Freedom isn't free. It comes with a price. George Bernard Shaw says, "Liberty is the breath of a free nation." Liberty. We all have the liberty to do what we want to do, right? We can't break the law, obviously, but we have the liberty. We can speak, we can write about how we feel. We can go about our country, right? But that comes with a price. And liberty, that freedom, is the breath. But do we honor that breath? We're going to find that out in a minute. Do we honor that liberty? The gentleman, Thomas Campbell, says this: "The patriot's blood is the seed of freedom." Boom. The tree that we sit under today came from boys and then women who walked across rice paddies in Germany and deserts carrying a rifle for you and I. And you know, when people don't vote, to me, that's disgusting. Because to me, you're spitting on a soldier's grave. I have had more Uber drivers in the last year than you could imagine. They all come from countries that I can't even pronounce. And they all say the same thing. Americans are spoiled. Americans are spoiled. They said as much as they liked where they were, they would never go back. They're here. They all say they have more opportunity here. They raise their kids here. One guy even said his son is going to Columbia College. He said that never would have been, he came from Bangladesh. Okay. They see the value of this great country. And their people didn't make the human sacrifice. And some of us don't realize how good it really is. Eleanor Roosevelt, 32nd First Lady of the United States, says this: true patriotism springs from the belief in the dignity of the individual, and not only for Americans, but for all people. Boom. The dignity of the individual. That's why we went World War II, to save the Jews, right, from Hitler's tyranny, right, where he was massacring those people. All right. We fought a civil war for the rights of people to be free within our own country. Okay. So Eleanor Roosevelt is right. Patriotism, it's not just enough from Americans. If we believe in the American way, if we believe in patriotism as it is, then we want it for all people, and we want it for the dignity of the individual, the rights of the individual, we the people. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay. Jock gave me some good counsel on that before the program. We the people. So the dignity of the individual. Do we look at the individual? Are we patriotic and care about the other person? Okay. If there's a cause that you believe in, if there's something that you feel is not right with this country, then damn it, get out there and do something. Write the letters, roll up your sleeves, make the phone calls, stand in Toe Park and protest it. But for God's sake, take the liberty that you have and be patriotic. Shooting stuff on Facebook is for the birds. There's no action in that. There's no action in that. But doing things for AmeriCares, or doing things for the veterans, or honoring the veterans, that's what true patriotism is. We thank Eleanor Roosevelt for that. One more quote before the break. This statement says this: patriotism can be a beautiful expression of the gratitude to the blessings that God has bestowed on our nation. Bing, bang, ba-boom. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That line, one nation under God, was actually added in 1957 by the Knights of Columbus. That was not in the original pledge. But one nation under God. I know a lot of you listening are of different faiths and of different beliefs. But let me explain something to you. This country is blessed. There is not another one anywhere in the world. I've been to Italy. It's nice. My Gupata, they came from there, but I would never live there. Okay? I live here. This is the melting pot. I don't agree with the stew. I agree that we all come together and become American, as my grandfather would say, to become one. No more red, white, and green. No more red, white, and yellow. No more red, white, and tan. Red, white, and blue. That's me and you. Jock, let's hit the break.
Well, T-Boz, you are certainly delivering it this morning. And for all those listening, we hope that you're being inspired and uplifted by T-Boz's words of wisdom and moments of meditation. We'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for allowing us to bring you the quality community radio programming that you're witnessing at this particular time. And we encourage each and every one of you to participate in your local community radio station. Volunteer-operated, listener-supported radio. The experiment continues. 25 years plus, going long and going strong. Contact us if you have a community event that you would like for us to promote for you at wapj.org. and sign up for our community calendar. And we'll be more than happy to get that out there for you. T-Boz, I must say that I am truly inspired by your timely message this morning. Patriotism is something that is often misunderstood. And I think that understanding that we benefit greatly from the precepts of the great document that the framers of the Constitution put in play for us. And the document does entitle us to unalienable and inalienable rights that are given from God. And recognizing that in the document is something that I think is revolutionary when you compare it to the times that it was drafted and the evolution ever since. So thank you for your topic today, and I hope that it's getting everybody revved up for Memorial Day that will be both memorable and reflective.
Well, I thank you for that, Jock. Do you know that President George Washington, when they wanted, he chose the name president. And this is how much faith is woven into our Constitution and our life. And again, I respect all of you that maybe are atheists, agnostic. Some of you are into nature. That's fine. I'm not here to change your mind or tell you to believe like I believe or Jock believes. But God is woven in, or spirit, however you want to refer to it, is woven into our Constitution and our life. And George Washington, when he was elected, they wanted to make him king. This is the truth. You can go to Mount Vernon and read this. They wanted to actually. George Washington and Martha Washington had a huge painting of the Blessed Mother over the fireplace. It's still there in Mount Vernon, and he wasn't Catholic, and so they wanted to make him a king, and he said, "No, the only king I have is Jesus. I'll take president." Sit with that on the way home, along with the visions of those young men at the Bob Hope program, along with the visions of those guys hitting Normandy, along with the vision of Bill Loader and his platoon of men standing in a rice paddy with the Eucharist. Just think of that. The great musician Bob Dylan says, "I think a hero is someone who understands the degree of responsibility that comes with freedom." A hero is someone that understands the degree of responsibility. You know, we look at people as heroes. Forget sporting heroes. They don't shed blood. And I like sports, but let's put things in perspective. But a hero, the people that we make heroes in our military, in our Navy, in our Air Force, and all of that, right? They understand responsibility. That freedom comes not only with a price, but a responsibility. Okay? That freedom comes with responsibility. We look, and I'm going to jump ahead because it's perfect to use this now, and I'll come back to where I was doing. We look at Matthew chapter 21, verse 22. Jesus said to them, "Render to Caesar what is Caesar's, and render to God what is God." Because the Pharisees were trying to catch him. They go, "Oh, there's the rabbi. We're going to get him. Hey, rabbi, here's a coin with Caesar on it. So, you think you're so smart. What do you think of this?" And what does he say to them? Render to Caesar what is Caesar's. Render to God what is God. God wants you. But he's also saying you have a responsibility to your country. Exactly what Bob Dylan is saying about a hero has a responsibility, understands the responsibility of freedom. Freedom isn't just running around saying what you want when you want. There's a responsibility to that. And we need to cultivate that with the people around us. Not all of us are going to carry a rifle. My friend Bill Loader says, consider yourself lucky. I always say to him, I feel bad that I didn't serve because when 1974, Vietnam ended and I was 17 and I missed it. He said, you didn't miss anything. Be happy you didn't carry a rifle. But there are other ways to express our patriotism, our love of country. Getting involved. And so Bob Dylan and Jesus are saying the same thing. Give the Caesars what's Caesar's. Be involved. Love your country. And then give to God what the things that belong to God, which is your heart and your love for God. Peter Marshall says, may we think of freedom not as the right to do as we please, but the opportunity to do what is right. Ooh. Do we do what is right or do what we do because it has a special interest to us. There's a difference, boys and girls, between doing right and doing what benefits you, me, Jock. And the list goes on. As Americans, we have to do, as patriots, we have to do what is right. And it may not always be what is an interest to us. That's why I go back to the old thing that I grew up in, the melting pot, not the stew. The stew, you can see the meat, the potatoes, and the carrots. In the melting pot, it just all tastes good. It's one unit. And when we're one unit, then we'll do what is right rather than what is special interest to us. So when you get behind a cause, make sure it has a broader band. Mark Twain, and then this one, patriotism is supporting your country always and your government when they deserve it. Bing, bang, boom. There's a difference between patriotism and government. It's we, the people. The government is ours. So you can be patriotic. You don't have to love the people who are in power. You don't have to love the mayor. You don't have to love the candidate that's running. That's government. But what you need to love, like the Uber driver said to me, is the red, white, and blue, the dirt that you're standing on, the dirt that people sat in a foxhole and got murdered, basically. Like that scene in Private Ryan when the kid's stomach is all coming out in front of him and he's calling for his mother and they're all trying to shove his intestines back in his stomach. Okay? That's patriotism. So be patriotic all the time, but don't confuse patriotism with government. Government, we should challenge our government. There are countries in this world that have such tyranny that they say they like their government because someone's got a knife in their back. But here we can say we love our government, we hate our government, we can parade around with pictures, we could have Saturday Night Live doing all spoofs on whether it's Trump, Biden, Nixon, doesn't matter, right? And we all sit there and laugh. We can do that, okay? We can do that because we're free. But we have don't confuse patriotism. Don't say, well, I'm not patriotic because I don't like people who are in office. They're separate. We're to challenge them. We're to challenge them. We put them in the places that they're in. They work for us. We're paying their salaries. So Mark Twain is right. Be patriotic all the time. And your government when they deserve it. Very strong words from him. William Faulkner, an author, says, we must be free not because we claim it, but because we practice it. Going right back over to what Eleanor Roosevelt said about the indignity of the individual, and we go back to John 15:13, and he says, no greater love than when a man or a woman lays down his life for another. We have to practice it. We have to practice patriotism. We have to practice love of country. We just don't walk around and say, yeah, the country's ours. It is. But people earned it for you, and you got to keep earning it for somebody else. You got to practice it. Thomas Paine, one of the founding members of the country, and he actually was Secretary of State, 1737 the first time, and then in 1850 the second time, but he didn't sign the Declaration of Independence. Those who expect to reap the blessings, there we go again, blessings of freedom. Freedom is a blessing, boys and girls. Blessing comes from one place. Whether it's, to me, it's God. To you guys, it could be something else. That's fine. But we're blessed here in this country. This is not the standard of the world, okay? So he says, those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must, like me, undergo the fatigue. Boom. Undergo the fatigue. Undergo the struggle. In order to appreciate the blessings of freedom, you need to undergo, like he said, the fatigue that he went through. All right? The pain and the misery sometimes. So sometimes, even with our children, we try to remove the struggle. When you remove the struggle, you make them weak. The reason why this country is so strong, the reason why this experiment is still working, is because people struggled to get here. England actually had a democracy for a while. They cut off the head of King Charles, the first King Charles, the great-great-grandfather of the guy we got now, right? They cut his head off and they set up a democracy, a republic. It only lasted 14 years. It fell apart. They couldn't keep it afloat because they didn't really understand the struggle. They didn't understand the pain. They didn't understand the commitment to freedom. And they went back to a monarchy. But they had a democracy like we have. But it didn't hold through. We're still here, right, with all the bumps and lumps. And, some of us get caught up in who's president. Let me tell you something. When I was born, Eisenhower was president. I think there's been 13 since I've been born, 68 years. There's going to be 100 more after me. But the principle of the United States is still here. That's what's lasting. Presidents come and go. But the Constitution, as Jock said earlier, is the foundation of what we believe in. J.S.B. Morse says this. Perfect timing for this one. I don't believe in the Constitution because I'm an American. What? I'm an American because I believe in the Constitution. Boom. The rights of free people. The ability, the pursuit of happiness. Not the guarantee of happiness, the pursuit of happiness. All right? But I'm an American because I believe in the Constitution. Okay? That's what makes me American. I believe in rights for all people. I believe in equal rights. I believe in equal opportunity. I believe in a government governed by the people, for the people. That's what makes me an American. Not just because I was born here. I believe in those principles that we hold self-evident to be true. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, not the separate states of America, going back to the stew. Bob Riley, Republican governor for the state of Alabama, 2003 to 2011, says, I have long believed that sacrifice is the pinnacle of patriotism. And that is beautiful. It's going to lead me right into this story about Fort McHenry. I told it 4 years ago. I'm going to go very quickly because I want to end on time. Fort McHenry, 1814. This is when Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. And in the Star-Spangled Banner, it talks about, and the flag was still standing. Okay? Vice Admiral Alexander Cochrane for the British was bombing Fort McHenry. And he actually told Francis Scott Key in a luncheon that they had on his ship that if the flag goes down, we'll stop bombing Fort McHenry. So they begin an onslaught of bombing Fort McHenry. 25 hours. Ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. The cannon. Ba-boom, ba-boom. And that's why he talked about the blare of the light. And they're bombing it. And Francis Scott Key is watching this from another ship. And they're bombing Fort McHenry. And the flag begins to go down. And it's tethered. And then it comes back up. So they ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. They just keep hammering. The British are all around Fort McHenry. They're hammering it and hammering it. And the flag begins to go down. And then it comes back up again. Ba-boom. They bomb the fort again. They just keep bombing it. Now the daylight comes up, and they're still bombing the fort after it's almost 25 hours, and the flag still comes back up every time it looks like it falls. Finally, the British run out of artillery. They got nothing left. They gave everything they had to blow this Fort McHenry up, and the flag is still standing. That's why he put it in the song. But the thing is, when they went inside the fort, at the base of the flag were dead bodies. And every time that flag went to go down, another bunch of men ran to hold it up. And at the base of that flag was hundreds of dead bodies. That's patriotism. That's why you and I can go out in the world and say what we want and eat when we want and start a business and go to college and have the freedoms we have. Because men we didn't know died for people they didn't know. A bunch of dead bodies at the bottom of a flag is why we celebrate Memorial Day. A bunch of dead bodies on a rice paddy in Vietnam is why we celebrate Memorial Day. A bunch of dead bodies in Germany. A bunch of dead bodies in the Pacific. It goes on. Pearl Harbor, Gettysburg. People shedding their blood like Jesus did for you, for people they never knew and never will know. And there's people doing it for us today. So this Memorial Day, take this takeaway with you from the late John F. Kennedy from his 1961 inaugural address, January 20th. That's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Where did that thought go? Now everybody wants, but no one wants to give. JFK was right. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what are you going to do for patriotism? What are you going to do for your country? Some of you will serve. Some of you had children that served and lost them. But you can be patriotic even in your day-to-day living, like Eleanor Roosevelt said. No greater man, as it says in John. And then we go right back to our first quote, freedom isn't free. We have the best country in the world, period. And you know what I say to people who don't like it? Go. You'll be back here in a heartbeat. We have the best country in the world. Does it need to be fixed? Yeah. But it's the best country. My father fought for it. Jock's father, Jim's father, Dave's father, stand there, right? They all fought for it. And it's an experiment that keeps working. And that's what Memorial Day, my friends, is all about. Think about that while you're with your family. And as I say every week, be yourself, because everyone else just take it. And may God bless America always. Jock, if you will, spin the vinyl. I thank you all for sharing. Thank you, Stan. Thank you, George. Thank you, Elks Lodge 372. We'll see you all in a couple of weeks.